Hey up! Right, I thought it would be fun to sort of discuss Royal Enfield's top 5 selling motorcycles on the global market, because it wasn't what I was expecting. But first of all, just a quick word about Wednesday's video. The figures for that video were way beyond what I was expecting, and it got, I think last time I looked it was 1,400 comments. Now, as you know, I like to go through all the comments for various reasons, to weed out the spam comments for adult sites, etc. But also, you know, I like to just let everybody know that I've read the comment by leaving a like on the comment, especially those who've contributed to the channel via the super thanks button. I like to thank them personally. Now, ordinarily, I can't just about get through 500 comments a day, but obviously on this occasion I've just got way behind. I've got video production for today to sort out as well. I was at it until the early hours of Thursday morning, yesterday morning, and I just had to give up in the end. I will get on top of it, so please, if you've left a super thank or you've left any sort of comment, please don't think that I'm ignoring you. It's just I couldn't cope with the sheer volume of comments, but I will get on top of it over the next few days. Right, Royal Enfield's sales figures and their top 5 best-selling bikes. I had an idea to do this right at the beginning of this month, January, but then when I started to look into it, I realised it was a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, the sales figures for 2023-24 aren't available yet. They won't be available for a couple of months, so I've had to go by the sales figures for 2022-2023 in the end, because they have been ratified. Now, I think a lot of people underestimate just how big Royal Enfield is. Just as an example, per month they only sell a few less bikes than Triumph sell in a year, and their total sales for 2022-2023 worldwide were a staggering 834,895 motorcycles in total worldwide. Now, as I said, I'm editing this on Thursday. I was up until the early hours this morning going through the comments. I'm tired. I don't want to make this video sort of too involved with facts and figures. I want to keep it short. And I just want to emphasise again that these are worldwide figures, which will be heavily weighted by the domestic Indian market choices. And I fully appreciate that wherever you live in the US, Australia, wherever, the sort of top 5 selling motorcycles are very probably going to be different. But in the greater scheme of things, Royal Enfield's export market isn't huge still at the moment. Their customer base is mainly India and the rest of Asia, and that's what tends to, weight these model choices. So, starting at number 5 being the least popular, number 1 being the most popular, we have the old Himalayan. Now, obviously the new 450 Himalayan has been released now, but sales won't have been recorded on the sales figures, so that didn't come into the equation. It'll be interesting to see where that goes next year, or this year. I'm not aware of any of these bikes being discounted to make way for the new model, but don't quote that as gospel, because I really don't know for certain. But either way, it is quite surprising that it's made it into the top 5 when you consider that there was the prospect of a new 450, a long-awaited new 450 model coming out. The old Himalayan deserves a lot of respect. I've got to admit, it was a model that I sort of ignored for many years and then was pleasantly surprised when I finally tried one. Royal Enfield haven't made any sort of announcement as to whether this bike is going to be discontinued. I hope it isn't. I hope both models sort of run side by side, at least for a while. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Right, on to number 4. Which is the J-Platform Meteor 350. Now, I know a lot of people malign the J platform as being overweight and underpowered. You know my views. Personally, I don't think that at all. They are modern, uncomplicated, sweet handling bikes with enough performance for your average rider for a commute, a bit of touring, or just a sunny Sunday afternoon run to one of the coffee shops. These are a thoroughly pleasant motorcycle. I mean, as you know, over the years I have accrued a few motorcycles as channel motorcycles. This was a big consideration for a long time. Unfortunately, Royal Enfield just keep bringing new models out to tempt you, so it ended up being sort of left on the sidelines because I had other preferences. Styled on one of their bullet-derived models from the 1990s, it's a brilliant bike. It deserves to be in the top 5, which now leads us to number 3. It's another 350, but you could have knocked me over with a feather with this one. It's the old Bullet 350. Now, I'll put my hand up to it. I was previously of the mistaken belief that they'd simply kept the old Bullet 350 on their sort of product lineup in order to maintain its continual production status, because it is eventually going to become the longest production or continuously produced motorcycle in motorcycle history. In fact, it already is. The new 350 Bullet hadn't sort of come onto the books when these figures were put together, so we know that this is definitely the old 350, a bike that I believed Indians hated. They were always complaining about its lack of power and its excess vibration. I just assumed this was a very low selling model that had just been sort of left in the background until they came out with a new J series version, and it's nothing of the sort. It has sold really well. It's number 3 in the top 5. The Bullet 350 is a cult motorcycle, that's clear. I don't know where my head was with my previous sort of regards to it. Now, the observant among you will have realised there's a bit of a pattern forming here, because number 2 is another J Platform Series 350cc motorcycle. The Hunter 350, the latest of the J Series bikes, with a slightly higher power to weight ratio than the others, quicker handling, sort of cafe racer styling, again derived from one of Royal Enfield's old Bullet derived models of the 1990s. Again, this bike was a big consideration as a channel bike a year or so back. I can't emphasise just how sweet and engaging these J Platform Series bikes are, but in the greater scheme of things, that wasn't the bike I ultimately chose. Like apparently almost everyone else in the world, I went for the classic 350 Reborn, which is Royal Enfield's biggest seller. Again, this was a big surprise to me. At the beginning of this, I thought it would be one of the 650s, perhaps the Interceptor. And although they are sort of perhaps more popular in the Western world, the sales figures suggest that they are just a tiny proportion of Royal Enfield's sales, with this bike probably the best selling bike, the classic derived model, styled on a late 1940s Royal Enfield motorcycle. They have been the mainstay of Royal Enfield sales for a decade or two at least. You know, it's funny, the domestic market in India don't just buy these bikes as commuters, they tour on them as well, and the distances in India can be huge when touring on a motorcycle, and a lot of the roads aren't that good. I often talk about how single-cylinder 350s were the mainstay of British and, to some extent, European motorcycling back in the 1950s and 60s. We Europeans seem to have moved away from that mindset nowadays, but the Indian riding public obviously haven't. And the reason for that is that the 350 single is possibly one of the most versatile classes of motorcycle in the world. I mean, that is just my opinion. It's also the opinion of hundreds of thousands of Indian motorcyclists. Right, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I would also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. I will be back next week, so until then, ride safely and I'll see you soon.